I love this piece by Jack Cole. It's untitled, and I remember coming across this piece actually in the Best of Playboy Cartoonist magazine. There was a full printout picture of it. I would like this on print, actually, and you can find this on the Wikipedia page. But what makes this little untitled piece astonishing, especially for Jack Cole, and why I think it's like fine art, is that you have these two contrasting characters. Of course, they're both white, we're white Americans. And here they're on the beach. And, you have the seductive woman, his girlfriend, we don't know, just like going back, being very seductive behind the guy. And the guy, you look at his face, you look at the girl's face, and they're like polar opposites. And it's kind of like gender difference here about how men and women are different. And, the woman's a 10 out of 10, but the guy is like, he's just like us. A man could be like a 4 out of 10 or a 5 out of 10 and be with a 10 out of 10 or something, but his face was just so comical. He's looking at her boobs and he's just like, well, I like her waist. I like her. But he's also really nervous. And it shows you something about the nature of men in this. I also like the fact that there's this old school radio. If you look really closely, there's this kind of like goofy, Mickey-looking parasailing guy who doesn't look anything like human beings. And I think that's like the richness of a cartoon, is that you can have Roger Rabbit looking as goofy as hell, and then you can have his girlfriend Jessica Rabbit being the most sexiest thing alive. And you kind of have that reflection here in this piece by Cole. And, you have the everyday guy, he's a little six-pack going on or whatever, and then he's with this, gorgeous woman that seduces the audience, kind of like an Edward Degas, like a Degas kind of seduction. And I always like to put it in saying, like, I've never seen an American woman look like this before. And that's why in the back of my head, I'm like, she's definitely Japanese. She's definitely Chinese, She's really pretty, like some Asiatic Orientalism, beautiful wonder woman. That the nature of a woman is to woo man. And I really like this a lot, how it's really, we as men, we love women. And here is like us, even back in 30, 40, women were still, our grandmas were beautiful. And our guys were goofy and funny and down to earth. We just never really written much about it. And I love how Cole really mixes the human and the cartoon together. And this is kind of like a beautiful, almost like romantic piece of art in the late 20th century. We don't worship this piece enough. Here, the viewer is appreciating the beauty of a woman. Her huge thighs, her thick stomach, her large boobs. Now, another thing too, her long, beautiful hair, silky hair, the cute little childlike bow, the Asiatic eyes, that you can't even see her pupils. That's so characteristic of Cole. Very like this, you look into her eyes, you see like pools of like devotion. And her mouth with white, there's no teeth lining, and like red lips and a small nose. And it's like the perfect woman. And so this really, you could say, oh, I might as well just like get horny and I'm getting aroused and I masturbate to it. It's more than arousal. It's the appreciation, the beauty of the woman. And this is reflected back to the man who's like, yeah, she's a 10 out of 10, but what can I do? I mean, I'm just stunted by her beauty. And so this is really about man's struggle with woman, and with the woman just being a woman. And we also have a businessman with this really like big boobed woman as well. And again, if you notice in all of Cole's art, the way he draws the eyes are like so Asiatic. You don't even see the eyes or the pupils. It's just feathers of eyelashes. And I think that's really like pretty. And you could say this kind of predates the whole anime or hangtai thing by when the Japanese were incorporating this amazing Eurasianism together. But I think in some of Cole's work, Cole really gets down the amazing lore of women and the seduction of them. And it's hard to believe that he's really drawing admixture European American white women. And it's hard to believe that our grandmas looked like this. But the cartooning gives us this kind of like cartoony kind of fascism to desire in a Leni Riefenstahl type of way of the difference between men and women and how we've kind of lost that desire. And we're not objectifying women. We're saying that women are so much the center of our lives and our sexuality, especially in the world of cartooning, how that kind of empowers us to see that way. The little caption writes, "I taught her how to swim last year. Wonder what I can teach her this year." Women are not being objectified in the statement. There's this kind of awe and wonder by the guy saying this in the cartoon, saying that man loves his woman. And a man, there's this kind of suspicion here. I wonder I could teach her this year. It's like, oh, might as well have sex with her or something like that. Or, but the point is, it's not just about having fun with women or the woman. It's not objectifying the woman as this like bird in a cage. But again, it's this awe and wonder. And this thing where, again, the sap kind of appreciates the woman for who she is. And there's this amazing aurora that comes from it. And there is this way where man finds his purpose in life. And that this art is not just arousing. It's not just something where blood rushes through man's body and desires the thing immediately. Here, the man appreciates the creation of something greater. And I think there's some kind of inward nationalism here, or inward looking desire to create something and to appreciate. It isn't just like a funny punch gag where all the older men reading Playboy says, oh yeah, I could teach her to have sex with me. That's so crass. There's a bigger translation here where love is something that is kind of almost paternal. It's a paternal way of thinking about things. This is interesting and extremely problematic. This photo right here is because you see a wild party going on, and then you see Uncle Sam getting done having sex, whether it's consensual or not consensual, with a Native American woman who seems to be baffled or enjoying it. You don't know whether she's high or drunk, but it's like, I'm surprised Jack Cole has not been canceled. He probably has been canceled by cancel culture, but it is so extreme in this picture right here. It's kind of like playful date rape. And there's a part of me that's like a moralist and totally ethical, being like, I don't think Larry Clark or Peter Sotos or Joseph Strambra would like ever, celebrate this. It's rather something bizarre. It's a weird pornographic fantasy about if only I was at the party. And there is a subtle race play here about I'm American, you're Native American. To resolve our issues, we have to have sex and put our desires. But the sex comes off as rape, date rape. And so our fantasy, we're really confused here. It's like, is date rape something of exciting and beautiful, or is it something humorous? And it's probably coming off as humorous because it's Playboy, America taking out of the Native Americans. So there's levels of like crass Robert Crumb pre-comic stuff in this work by Cole. And I think it's very interesting here. And I also wanted to mention a very infamous cover on kmfdm's Naive album by Brute, or Hughes, Indian Hughes. And here Hughes, or Brute, as a depicting picture of a man smiling and the woman's in shock looking at him. But there's two things she's being shocked by. She's not only being shocked by the man that's happy and going to have sex with her or taking her for whatever bounty reasons, but she's also seeing something in the sun. And so when this piece of art, this album art came out, the record label or a publishing was questioning Brute's art here depicting rape. Very similar to you're seeing in Cole's art. And Brute said, well, you can translate it two ways. You can see the woman was consensually having sex with the man, but then she's afraid of this atomic bomb happening that will obliterate them. But then most people can read it as the man is raping the woman. he's happy in taking her away. And so there is this very transgressive, kind of sad, like extreme rape culture thing happening. That's the same energy you could see through Cole, but kmfdm and Hugh's art is more about the hypocrisy. And I don't want to say satirical or ridiculing, but the concept of what is sex? Who's enjoying sex? Is it one-sided? Are men so stupid that they'll go with sex that things will be totally obliterated? That what the woman thinks she's consenting to is that she's going to be raped later on, and we think we're enjoying it, but we're not. And I think the same Hugh artwork goes the Cole colonial sex party thing. This is Pill Eater, and I recorded this on September 7th, 2021.